Hey everyone, welcome back to some more Ocean Walker technique tips. I'm excited to show you this video. We've got a really cool video from a drone showing that level of rotation that I get. You're going to see how balanced I am in the water, and we're going to explore how much you should rotate and the difference between rotating and not rotating, what the benefits are. So in the Ocean Walker technique, we go a full 180 degrees. So the top hip has to get to the bottom before I pull. Now, what's the benefit of that? Well, first of all, and the reason I did it was it offloads pressure on my shoulder. When I'm on my side, I don't feel any pressure at all on the top of the shoulder. Now, when I swam flat, I had pressure on top of the shoulder as I pulled water back. So as I take that rotation, there's no pressure, which is the first thing. The other thing is, by rotating top to the bottom, I create the most amount of momentum possible and therefore the biggest glide possible. So I'm trying to create a fish-like position. I'm trying to get on my side and create the minimum drag possible. Now, I've got quite a big frame. So if I pull myself flat through the water, then I'm going to be heavier. I'm going to feel heavier. I've got more body mass to pull through. So I'm trying to actually get onto my side before I pull. That's very, very different from the conventional way of rotating, which is spearing or driving your arm in and pulling your weight round. And then a lot of people still end up slightly flatter. The benefits of being flatter is it's easier if you don't know how to stabilize yourself. But the problem is you're going to pull more body mass, you're going to have more drag through the water, and the flatter you are, the recovery arm is going to have to lift overhead. Now, because I'm on my side, I don't have to lift overhead, which eliminates any problems for the shoulder with the recovery arm going over the top. So many of us lift arm overhead, and think of these sports like tennis and throwing and pitching in baseball. Anything over the top can compress the shoulder joint. But if you go round the side in a semicircle, you never have a problem, which is the reason I can continue to swim after 3 operations on my left shoulder. In fact, when I pull to my groin, I go low round in a semicircle. Because my shoulder is naturally much higher by being on the side, I don't have to lift. I just sweep low and it just protects the shoulder. It's effortless, there's no energy. But the flatter you go, the lower the shoulder, the more you have to lift arm overhead. Now, the problem is when you lift the arm overhead, not only potentially irritating the shoulder joint, you then end up high on top of the water. So then you have to do this high catch and pull water back. And you might have heard people talk about over the barrel, trying to get this wrist over the top. But if you try and do that, what you'll find is your shoulder elevates, it presses into the neck, you've got tendons running over that shoulder, and we want to protect the neck and shoulders. So we want to avoid this high catch. So what I do when I sweep this semicircle and I rotate to take that arm down into the water, it goes 40 degrees and I end up on my side with the arm lower, and water then flows over the top of me. Now that's very different if I was flat with my arm lower, because then water would hit me in the chest. So my arm is much lower, but because I'm on the side, I'm more efficient. As I say, if I'm flatter, then I've got more body mass, and if I'm higher with my arm as I enter, then I've got all that drag as I enter. And then I've got to try and push water back, and likelihood is I'll push water down because my shoulder's not flexible enough to do it. And then when you push water down, you pull your chest up, your legs drop, you're in an inefficient body position. So a lot of people talk about having that arm high on top of the water because there's less drag coming off the arm. But think about where the body is. If your arm is high and your head is looking forward, well, likelihood is your hips are going to drop. So then you've got that drag. Then you try and push water back, you push water down, your chest comes up, and you've got even more inefficiency. So you can't just deal with one thing, which is arm up high because of less drag. You've got to look at the whole body and how it sits into the water. And then there's pressure on top of the shoulder. Every time I rotate from side to side, I feel very, very light. And I get this 2-meter glide because of the momentum. Like shot put, discus, hammer throw, they're all creating momentum from spinning round and then they're releasing. Same principle in water. And that's when I ask myself, why can't I do that in water? If it happens on land, golf is hips and then they hit the ball with the chest afterwards. They're following the hips. Boxing is hips and then you do the punch. So it's all hip base on land. And thinking about the kayak, if I was in a boat now, I'd put my paddle in, my hips would come back and the paddle would follow. I'm not going to be rigid with the paddle and use my chest, which is basically what we were taught when we swim. Go flat, put your arm in and pull your body back. But actually, if you rotate on the side, you're going to be the most efficient possible, like a fish, as I explained, and you're going to take that pressure off the shoulder and you're going to get momentum and glide, which is why it becomes so effortless, and it protects the shoulder on top and it makes it easier to get that arm low in the water. There's so many benefits by going side to side. I say some people will look at me and go, that's over rotation. Not necessarily explain why, but just say, well, because he's rotating on the side, he must be off balance. No, if my head is still, which it is absolutely still when it's down until I breathe, then I'm completely balanced on my side. As long as I have that body awareness, as long as when I'm on my side, my feet are pointing sideways, so I don't let my legs go back on themselves. That's a case of keeping the legs together. Yes, you're more vulnerable, but this is what I teach in the Ocean Walker technique. I teach it one-to-one, and I do it in groups, and I do it on my online Ocean Walker Vimeo series. So check it out, and I explain how to be balanced with that head. And then when you balance, the arms then follow that. The arms underwater should be out the eye line, the arm recovery arm on top. It's also sweeping but stays out of the middle, which means that I'm balanced. When I pull back to the groin, after I pull, I make sure that I sweep it outwards. I never pull back and then lift, never lift. If you lift, then you might go off balance. If you pull back to the groin and you roll back on yourself, so let's say I pull with my left arm and then my elbow goes back to the right, then I'm going to pop over. And that's why a lot of people will say, well, go flatter because there's less issues that can happen. But you're going to be more inefficient. So why not teach yourself to go side to side, which is going to be the smallest you can possibly be. And it's just learning how. Initially, I do it without arms to create that stability. But you can see as I swim here side to side, I am very balanced. I'm not getting knocked over with over rotation. There's no pressure whatsoever on my shoulder because every time I get onto the side, I make sure that even though I am on my side, my top hip is slightly forward so I can rotate for the next stroke. What I don't do is pull on my side and my legs scissor back behind and my shoulder comes back on itself, my head moves, or I pull back, my head moves first, my arm comes across the middle, my shoulder comes back, then it's over rotation again. None of that happens because I'm very conscious of having body awareness. So try this out. It really is going to help you. You'll be shocked when you see the difference and the benefit of going from side to side. All right, I hope that helps you. Take care.